I saw Parrish through the glass. Not Claire. My gut went tight before my brain caught up. Where's Dr. Bennett Cole? I asked the circulating nurse, trying to keep my voice even. The nurse didn't look up from her tablet. She stepped out. Mr. Cole, Dr. Parrish's covering. Stepped out where? No answer. Just the hum of the ventilator and the rhythmic beep of Lila's monitor. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the OR dashboard. At 6:17 a.m., Claire's name had been swapped out of Lila's case. The note read, "Emergency coverage, adult trauma." I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, "You're off Lila's surgery?" 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Ethan," she said, sounding winded. "It's covered. Parrish is solid. Since when do you bail on your own kid? Don't make this a thing. Ethan, there's a level 1 coming in. Ryan needs an extra pair of hands." "Ryan," I repeated. His name felt greasy in my mouth. "You're choosing Ryan over Lila?" "I'm choosing a patient with a penetrating chest wound over a scheduled repair on a stable 7-year-old. Use your head." "My head is exactly what's telling me this is fucked up," I said, but she'd already hung up. I took the stairs 2 at a time down to the surgical administration wing. Claire's office was empty, but Ryan's door was half open. I pushed it wider. He was peeling off his trauma gown, his forearms streaked with blood. What the hell happened to my wife's schedule? I asked. Ryan didn't flinch. He dropped the gown into the biohazard bin. She volunteered for a higher priority case. Higher than her daughter's heart? Sometimes we have to triage. "Ethan, or did you forget I run the ED?" "I didn't forget. What I don't get is why you needed Claire specifically. There are 4 other cardiothoracic surgeons on call." He finally looked at me, his eyes flat, "Because she's the best I've got." And the mayor's chief of staff was breathing down my neck. "You want a political shitstorm at St. Mary's? Because that's how you get one. So you threw Claire under the bus to save your own ass. Watch your mouth." Ryan said, stepping closer, "Your wife made a professional judgment. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be married to a surgeon." I leaned in. "Or maybe you shouldn't be sleeping with mine." His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "Get out of my office before I call security." I left, but I didn't go far. I headed straight for the OR log terminal outside recovery. Lisa Chun, the charge nurse, was updating charts. I flashed my admin badge. "Pull up the staffing changes for OR 3 today." She hesitated. "Ethan, I don't know if Lisa, my daughter's on that table." "Now." She sighed and typed. The screen refreshed, showing the override code. I recognized the prefix, RB01, Ryan Bennett's personal access. He manually reassigned her. I asked, "Yeah." At 5:43 a.m. said it was pre-approved by Dr. Marsh. It wasn't. I said, "Evelyn Marsh, the surgical chair, was obsessive about protocol. She hated last-minute swaps unless someone was coding. And the trauma case? 52-year-old male, MVA with cardiac tamponade. Came in at 5:50. Ryan scrubbed in with Claire at 6:05. I checked the time. Lila's surgery had started at 7 o'clock, which meant Claire had been in another or while our daughter was being prepped, draped, and cut open. Did she even page down to check on Lila? Lisa winced. She didn't answer her pages. "Ethan, not once." Parrish tried 3 times. My throat went dry. She didn't answer? Negative. Radio silence. I walked out before I said something that would get me escorted out. In the stairwell, I called Claire again. This time she picked up. "I'm in the middle of something." She snapped, "You didn't answer your pages." "Claire, Lisa says you ghosted Parrish." A pause. Then, quieter, I was tied up. Ryan's case was complicated. Complicated enough to ignore our daughter? "Don't do this now. I'll talk to you later." Later? Lila's on bypass right now. Later isn't good enough. She hung up. Again. I spent the next 2 hours pacing the surgical waiting room, ignoring the sympathetic looks from the unit clerk. At 10:17 a.m., Parrish emerged, her mask hanging around her neck. "She's stable." Parrish said, "Closure in 10. I nodded, too wired to feel relief. "Thanks for taking it." "Ethan," she said, lowering her voice. "Between us, Claire's been off lately. Today was bad. Real bad. How off? Distracted. Slow on the pre-op consult yesterday. And today, she didn't even check the imaging herself. I had to redo the measurements. That's not like her. You think Ryan's got something on her? Parrish glanced around. I think Ryan thinks he still owns her, and Claire's letting him. Before I could push further, a page crackled overhead. Dr. Bennett Cole. Report to North Pavilion ICU for Stat North Pavilion. VIP wing. Ryan's territory. I waited until Parrish left, then pulled up the internal paging logs on my phone. Using my admin credentials, I drilled into the system. There it was. At 7:03 a.m., 3 minutes after Lila's incision, Claire's pager had been pinged, not by the or, not by Parrish, by a direct line registered to ICU4, the same line that routed to Ryan's private attending phone. I stared at the screen. She hadn't been paged for Lila. She'd been paged for Ryan, and she'd answered. By the time I got home that night, I'd replayed that page log 20 times. Claire walked in at 2:14 a.m. I was on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. Where were you? I asked. She dropped her bag by the door. Ryan needed backup. The mayor's office was watching, and our daughter wasn't? Lila was fine. Parrish did a great job. Parrish did your job. I corrected. You didn't answer a single page. Claire, do you know how that looks? Like you didn't give a shit. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up. You chose your ex-husband over your daughter. Don't talk to me about fair. She rubbed her temples. It's not that simple. Ryan's under investigation by the board. If that trauma case went south, he'd lose everything. I was protecting the department. Bullshit. You were protecting him. Again, just like you always do. You don't understand the pressure. I understand plenty. I cut in. I understand that you're so busy cleaning up Ryan's messes that you forgot you have a kid who needed her mom today. Literally needed her. And you weren't there. She didn't cry. That was the worst part. No tears. No breakdown. Just a cold, hollow stare. I'm going to bed. Don't. I said, sleep on the couch. Or better yet, go sleep in your precious North Pavilion. I'm sure Ryan's got a cot available. She didn't argue. She grabbed a blanket and shut herself in the guest room. I sat back down, opened my laptop, and pulled up the pager logs again. Then I cross-referenced them with the OR schedule, the ED admit records, and the surgical attendance sheets. The pattern was clear. Every time Ryan had a high-profile case in the last 3 months, Claire's schedule had been adjusted, and every time she'd been paged to ICU for beforehand. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My wife hadn't just missed our daughter's surgery. She'd been summoned, and she'd gone willingly. I closed the laptop and walked to the guest room door. I didn't knock. I just said, loud enough for her to hear, tomorrow, I'm talking to Evelyn Marsh, and if you try to stop me, I'll make sure Ryan's name comes up in every sentence. No response, but I heard the blanket shift. She was awake, listening. Good. Let her sweat. I went to check on Lila, sleeping peacefully with her stuffed giraffe tucked under her arm. I kissed her forehead, then sat on the floor next to her bed, my back against the wall. Somewhere in this house, my wife was lying to me. Somewhere across town, her ex-husband was pulling strings. And somewhere in between, our daughter's surgery had become collateral damage. I wasn't going to let that stand. Not anymore that I woke up at 5, still on the floor next to Lila's bed. My neck was stiff, but my jaw was tighter. I checked the hospital's internal portal on my phone before I even stood up. Same story. Claire's name still scrubbed from yesterday's or roster. No correction. No apology. Just a clean digital cover-up. I poured coffee I didn't taste and drove to St. Mary's before sunrise. The parking garage smelled like wet concrete and diesel. I took the staff elevator to the Health Information Management Suite. Raj Patel, the night shift data tech, was counting discharge summaries. He looked up when I flashed my badge. Ethan, early. I need pager logs and internal comms for Dr. Bennett Cole. Yesterday morning, 5 a.m. to noon. Raj hesitated. That's protected. Even for you. I'm director of operations. I'm investigating a scheduling conflict that impacted a pediatric cardiac case. If I don't get these, I escalate to compliance, then to legal, and your name ends up on the paper trail for obstructing an internal review. Your call. He held my stare for 3 seconds, then sighed. Give me 10. While he worked, I texted Claire. We need to talk before you scrub in. She replied a minute later. In the or. Talk later. I didn't bother answering. Raj slid a USB drive across the desk. Encrypted. Password your employee ID backward. And Ethan? If Marsh asks. I never touch this. She won't. I locked myself in an empty conference room and plugged in. The logs loaded fast. I filtered by Claire's page number. Nothing from or 3. Nothing from Parrish. But there they were, 3 incoming calls between 6:48 and 7:12 a.m., all routed through a private extension registered to Ryan Bennett's attending phone. Encrypted, non-standard protocol. The kind you use when you don't want compliance listening. I dialed Claire, straight to voicemail. I left a message, keeping my voice flat. You told me you were paged. You weren't. You were called, privately, 3 times. I have the logs. Claire, explain that. Then I called Ryan. He'd picked up on the second ring, sounding like he'd been awake for hours. Cole, what? Why did you call Claire 3 times during my daughter's surgery? Silence. Then a low chuckle. You're digging through comms logs? Jesus. Ethan, get a hobby. Answer the question. I needed a consult. Patient crashed. Standard procedure. Standard procedure is a page. Ryan, not encrypted calls from your private line. And since when do you need a cardiothoracic consult in the middle of a trauma you're already managing? Since the patient had a history of mitral valve repair. Since I didn't have time to explain that to you. Since maybe, just maybe, I trust Claire's judgment more than yours. You trust her to lie for you. Careful, he said, his tone dropping. You're starting to sound like a liability. And you're starting to sound like someone who's forgotten who signs your privilege forms. He hung up. I stared at the dead phone, then opened the hospital's credentialing database. Ryan's clinical privileges were up for renewal next month. As director of ops, I sat on the committee. So did Claire. Interesting. I found Evelyn Marsh on the 4th floor, reviewing surgical outcomes with a resident. She dismissed him when she saw me. Ethan, you're here early. So is the fallout from yesterday? I said, I've been reviewing staffing records. Her expression didn't change. I heard, Ryan mentioned you were agitated. Agitated? My wife abandoned her daughter's surgery. Evelyn, and your ED chair orchestrated it. That's not agitation. That's a systemic failure. Ryan indicated it was a clinical judgment call. High-profile trauma. Political implications, bullshit. I cut in. There's no clinical justification for pulling a pediatric cardiac surgeon mid-roster unless she's the only one who can handle a specific complication. And even then, you page her. You don't encrypt 3 private calls. You don't list it as emergency coverage after the fact. And you sure as hell don't let her skip her own kids, or without a single word to the family. Marsh folded her arms. You're making assumptions based on incomplete data. Then fill in the gaps. Why did Ryan override the schedule? Why wasn't I notified? And why does Claire suddenly have a standing invite to his VIP cases every time the mayor's office blinks? Ryan's relationship with the Bennett Foundation brings in 8 figures a year. Ethan, you know that. Sometimes institutional priorities don't include my daughter. Don't put words in my mouth. Then say them clearly. Is Ryan above the rules? Because from where I sit, he's using Claire as a fixer. And you're letting him. Marsh stepped closer, lowering her voice. Be very careful what you accuse people of. Ethan, Ryan has friends in the C-suite. And Claire's made her own choices. If you keep pushing, you might not like what surfaces. Like what? That she's covering for him? I already know that. What I don't know is why you're letting it happen. Because medicine isn't just about patients. Ethan, it's about power, reputation, donations, and right now, Ryan delivers all three. Rock that boat. And you'll find yourself explaining why you're harassing a department chair instead of doing your actual job. I held her gaze. My actual job is making sure this hospital doesn't kill kids or break laws. If Ryan's cutting corners, I'm obligated to report it. HIPAA doesn't protect misconduct. No, she said quietly, but it protects privacy. And retaliation claims. Think about that before you go waving logs around. I left before I said something that got me fired. In the stairwell, I ran into Parrish. She looked surprised. Ethan, everything okay? Define okay. I said, you got a minute? She glanced at her watch. 5. We walked to the doctor's lounge. I kept my voice low. You said yesterday Claire's been off. How off? Pellish sight. Look, I'm not her supervisor, but she's been distracted for weeks. Missed pre-ops, sloppy documentation, and Ryan, he's been all over her cases. Last month, he overrode her decision on a transplant list, took the kid off, said the family had conflicts. I checked. The family didn't know anything. He overrode her directly, and HR didn't blink. I asked around. Turns out Ryan's got carte blanche from upstairs. Even Marsh won't touch him. And Claire lets him? She argues. Quietly, but she backs down. Every time. It's like she's afraid of him. Afraid. Or indebted. Parrish tilted her head. What do you mean? Nothing. I said quickly, just thinking out loud. I thanked her and headed down to the garage. My hands were shaking. But not from caffeine. From clarity. Ryan wasn't just leaning on Claire. He was controlling her. And Marsh was enabling it because the money flowed uphill. I got in my car and called Claire again. This time she answered. Ethan, I'm in pre-op rounds. I spoke to Marsh and Parrish, and I have the comms logs. Stop lying to me. Claire, why did Ryan pull you off Lila's surgery? A long pause. Then, her voice barely audible. He said it was a matter of life or death. Bullshit. The trauma patient lived. Didn't he? So whose life? Yours? Another pause. Ryan, he's been under investigation by the medical board for 6 months. Unreported adverse events. If this case went sideways, they'd audit everything, including cases I was involved in. Involved how? I adjusted some records. Post-op notes. Nothing that harmed a patient, but it was still falsification. Ryan said if I didn't help him with this trauma case, he'd tell the board I was unstable, that I couldn't handle the pressure after our divorce. He'd ruin me. Ethan, so you ruined us instead. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was exactly like this. You chose him. Again. And you're still choosing him. I'm trying to protect my career. Your career is a joke if you don't have integrity. You're a surgeon. Claire, people trust you with their hearts. Literally. And you're letting a manipulative ex-husband blackmail you into betraying that trust? Into abandoning your own child? She started crying. Real crying. Not the control kind. I didn't know what else to do. You could have come to me. You could have told the truth. But you didn't, because you knew I'd tell you to stop covering for him. And you weren't ready to let him go. I'm scared. Ethan, join the club, I said, and hung up. I sat in the garage for 20 minutes. Engine off, lights off. Then I drove to the one place I knew Ryan would be, the physician's parking lot. I waited by his Tesla. When he showed up, I stepped out of the shadows. He stopped short. You've got a death wish. Cole, I've got a wife who's terrified of you, and a hospital that's letting you bully her into falsifying records. Ryan laughed. Falsifying? That's a strong word. It's the right word. And I've got the logs to prove it. The calls. The schedule overrides. The pattern. You've been using Claire as your personal cleanup crew for months. And now you've dragged my daughter into it. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you pulled her off Lila's surgery to save your own ass with the mayor's office. I know you threatened to ruin her career if she didn't comply. And I know Evelyn Marsh is too scared of your donation checks to stop you. But I'm not. Ryan stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. You go public with any of this, and I'll make sure Claire loses her license. And you? I'll have you blacklisted from every hospital in Illinois. You'll never work ops again. Threaten me all you want. I said, but you touch Claire professionally, and I'll hand every bite of evidence I have to the Tribune, the Sun-Times, and the medical board, and I'll start with the Mercy Hospital backups. He froze. How do you know about Mercy? Because I'm not stupid. And neither is Claire, even if she's acting like it. Whatever you're hiding there, it's big enough that she's willing to burn her own marriage over it. So here's the deal. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from my daughter. And if I see your name on another one of her schedules without a damn good reason, I'll burn you so fast you'll wish you'd never left the county morgue. I turned to leave. He called after me, voice steady but strained. You think you're saving her? You're just making her a target. I didn't look back. No, Ryan, you already did that. I'm just making sure the target shoots back. I drove home, my hands still shaking. When I walked in, Claire was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open. She looked up, eyes red. He called me. She said, Ryan, he said you threatened him. I did. He said if I don't cooperate, he'll report me to the board for unprofessional conduct. Let him, I said, because if he does, I'll report him for coercion, falsification, and abuse of privilege, and I'll bring Marsh down with him for obstruction. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I said, you've been living in fear of him since your divorce, and I've been too busy trusting you to see it. But that ends now. Either you stand with me and tell the truth, or you stand with him and lose everything, including me, including Lila. She stared at me, tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know how to choose. Then start by telling me what's on the Mercy backups. She closed her eyes. I can't. Then we're done. I walked out, but not before I saw her shoulders shake. I didn't feel victory. I felt sick, because I realized something in that moment. Claire wasn't just protecting Ryan. She was protecting a secret that could destroy us all. And Ryan knew it. I spent the rest of the day in my home office, compiling every log, every schedule change, every encrypted call into a single encrypted folder. I labeled it insurance, just in case. Late that night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I answered, a woman's voice. Low and clipped, Mr. Cole. If you release those files, your wife won't just lose her license. She'll lose everything else too. Click. I stared at the phone. Then I opened the folder and added a new note. Caller ID blocked. Female. 10:47 p.m. reference to everything else. Threat level. High. I didn't sleep. I just watched the clock, waiting for morning, waiting for the next move, because whoever that was, they weren't bluffing. And neither was I. I forwarded the recording to Claire at 6:03 a.m. No message, just a file. She called 37 minutes later. I let it ring until voicemail picked up, then listened. Ethan, open your phone. Please. Her voice was steady. But I knew the tells, tight throat, clipped vowels. That picture is not what it looks like. I called her back. Then what is it? Because it looks exactly like you and Ryan in the North Pavilion call room at 9:12 a.m. yesterday. While Lila's chest was open, we were talking, with the door locked, blinds down. According to the security log, you swiped in with his badge. Yours wasn't used. A beat. He wanted privacy. Privacy to do what? Claire? Screw? Or compare notes on which one of you could neglect our daughter harder. Don't be crude. Don't be a liar. You weren't in the OR. You weren't in the ICU. You were in a broom closet with your ex-husband. And you expect me to believe you were just chatting? Silence. Then, quieter, it got emotional. Emotional. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Our daughter's on a ventilator, and you're getting emotional with the guy who just tanked your career. Priorities. Claire, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand plenty. I understand that you're so deep in Ryan's pocket you can't see daylight. I understand that you're letting him turn you into a scapegoat. And I understand that if you don't start telling me the truth, the whole truth, I'm walking into Marsh's office with this photo and those logs before lunch. Ethan, please, no. You don't get to please me. You get to explain why my 7-year-old had to ask the anesthesiologist where her mother was. You get to explain why Parrish had to cover your ass. And you get to explain why the hell I should believe a single word out of your mouth ever again. I hung up, blocked her number, then unblocked it, because I needed to hear whatever bullshit she'd spin next. By 9, I was at St. Mary's, in the surgical lounge. Parrish was grabbing a coffee. I nodded toward the corner table. She followed. You look like hell, she said. Feel worse. I slid my phone across the table. The photo on the screen. Recognize the room? Parrish squinted. North Pavilion. 2nd floor. Call room B. How'd you get this? Anonymous tip. Sent last night. Timestamps 9:12 a.m. yesterday. Right in the middle of Lila's bypass. She whistled low. That's not good. It's a disaster. And Claire's claiming it was emotional. Parrish set the phone down. Between you and me, this isn't the first time. 2 weeks ago, I saw Ryan leave that same room at 11 p.m. Claire was inside, alone. When I asked her about it, she said they were debriefing a case. At 11 at night, in a locked call room, debriefing. I repeated, right, Ethan, I've known Claire since residency. She's brilliant. But she's also vulnerable when it comes to Ryan. Everyone sees it, except maybe her. Well, she's not vulnerable anymore. She's complicit, and I'm done covering for her. Parrish leaned in. What are you going to do? Expose it. All of it. The logs. The schedule overrides. The photo. Let HR sort out. HR scared of Ryan. Marcia's scared of Ryan. Hell, the CEO invites him to his box at the United Center. You go in there swinging. You'll be the one looking for a new job. Then I'll find a new job. But I won't sit quiet while my wife destroys her career and our family for a guy who treats her like a disposable scalpel. Parrish studied me. You love her? I don't know what I feel right now, but I know I can't trust her. And I know Lila deserves better than a mother who picks her ex over her own heart. I stood up. Parrish grabbed my wrist. Wait, if you go to HR, do it through channels. Formal complaint, documentation. Otherwise, they'll bury it. And I'm not giving them the chance. I headed straight for HR. Marjorie Wu, the director, was in her office reviewing files. I knocked once and walked in. Ethan, this is a surprise. I need to file a formal complaint against Dr. Ryan Bennett and, secondarily, Dr. Claire Bennett Cole. Marjorie's pen paused. On what grounds? Professional misconduct, coercion, falsification of scheduling records, potential violation of the hospital's fraternization policy, and gross negligence in the context of a pediatric surgical case. I laid the printed logs, the photo, and the call records on her desk. She scanned them, her face unreadable. This is serious. Damn right it is. Ethan, you realize this implicates your wife as well. I'm aware. And I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for an investigation. Full stop. Marjorie leaned back. Ryan Bennett is a key stakeholder. Any complaint against him triggers a mandatory review by the executive committee. And Claire, she's a department vice chair. This will get messy. Messy is better than corrupt, she sighed. I'll need you to sign a sworn statement. And I'll need copies of everything. But Ethan, once this starts, there's no going back. Ryan will fight. Hard. And Claire, she may not survive the fallout. She should have thought about that before she locked herself in a call room with him. Marjorie nodded slowly. All right. I'll initiate a level 2 inquiry. Confidential. For now. But if the evidence supports it, we'll escalate. You understand that means interviews? Possibly suspension pending investigation? I understand. I signed the statement. Handed over the drive, and walked out. My hands were steady for the first time in days. 2 hours later, Claire stormed into my office. She didn't knock. Are you out of your mind? She hissed. Close the door. I said, she did. HR just called me in. They're launching an investigation. Because of you. Because of you. Claire and Ryan. I just handed them the receipts. You handed them a photo that makes me look like I'm having an affair in the middle of my daughter's surgery. Do you have any idea what that does to my credibility? It does exactly what the truth does. It exposes you. I was trying to protect you. She shouted. Protect me from what? The truth? Or from Ryan? From both. She paced, raking her hands through her hair. If the board finds out about Mercy, if they find out I altered records, I'm finished. Ryan said if I kept quiet and helped him, he'd make sure it never surfaced. But now, thanks to you, it's all coming out. Then stop helping him. Stop covering for him. Stop letting him blackmail you into destroying your life. It's not that simple. It is. You tell the truth. You go to Marsh, to HR, to the board, and you say, Ryan Bennett coerced me into falsifying records. He pulled me off my daughter's surgery, and he's been threatening me for months. You blow the whistle. Claire, that's how you protect yourself. And ruin my career, my reputation, everything I built? Your career is already ruined if you stay silent. You're a surgeon. Your reputation is built on trust. And right now, you're trusting a guy who'd throw you under a bus to save his own skin. She sank into the chair opposite my desk. I am scared. Ethan, I know, but fear doesn't excuse betrayal. And it doesn't fix Lila's scar. We sat in silence. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then paled. It's Marsh. She wants to see me. Now, then go, and tell her the truth. All of it. She stood, trembling. If I do this, if I tell them, Ryan will destroy me. Then let him try, but do it standing up. Claire, not hiding in a call room. She left. I didn't watch her go. I just stared at the phone, willing it to ring with good news. It rang an hour later. Not Claire, Marjorie Wu. Ethan, Dr. Bennett Cole, has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation, effective immediately. Claire, she admitted to professional lapses but denied any improper relationship with Dr. Bennett. She also declined to provide details regarding the Mercy Hospital records at this time, so she's still protecting him. It appears so. However, the investigation into Dr. Bennett is proceeding. We've frozen his access to VIP scheduling and restricted his or privileges temporarily. Temporarily, for now. But Ethan, be prepared. Ryan's already lawyered up, and he's claiming this is a retaliatory smear campaign orchestrated by you. Of course he is. I'll keep you updated. And Ethan, thank you for coming forward. It took courage. I hung up and drove home. Lila was in the living room, drawing. She looked up when I walked in. Daddy, where's Mommy? I crouched down. Mommy's at work. Sweetie, but she's taking a little break. Is she in trouble? She made some mistakes. But we're going to be okay. Will she come home? I hope so. Baby, I hope so. That night, Claire came home at 10. She didn't come to the bedroom. She slept on the couch. At midnight, I heard her crying softly. I didn't go to her. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Stop digging. Or your wife won't be the only one who loses everything. I didn't reply. I just saved the message, added it to the folder, and went back to staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in this city, Ryan Bennett was awake, plotting. Somewhere in this house, my wife was broken, still chained to a man who'd ruined her. And somewhere in between, I was done being the only one fighting. The next morning, I called the Illinois Medical Board. I didn't leave my name. I just said, investigate Dr. Ryan Bennett and Dr. Claire Bennett Cole. Start with St. Mary's or logs from yesterday, and asked about Mercy Hospital. Then I hung up. Game on. The text came at 6:02 a.m. Formal complaint filed re. Dr. Claire Bennett Cole. IL Medical Board case. Hashtag 23-8841. Good luck. I didn't recognize the number. I didn't need to. Only 3 people knew I called the board yesterday, the automated system, and whoever monitored the tip line. Ryan moved faster than I expected. I pulled up the public database on the medical board's website. There it was. Bennett Cole. Claire. Allegation. Unprofessional conduct during critical surgical coverage. Failure to maintain patient safety standards. Clinical judgment impairment. Filed by Ryan Bennett, MD, I called Claire. Voicemail. I texted. Check your email. Ryan filed on you. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Her voice was raw. He actually did it. I told you he would. Did you think he'd take the fall alone? I don't know what I thought. She sounded like she was moving. Keys jingling. I'm heading to Marcia's office. Don't. Not until you talk to a lawyer. Anything you say to her right now goes straight into Ryan's defense file. I don't have a lawyer. Ethan, then get one. Call Alan Pierce. He's the best in medical licensing. Tell him I'm paying. You do that? I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so you don't perjure yourself trying to cover for him. She was quiet. Then, the board will suspend my license. Probably, pending investigation. But if you cooperate, if you give them Ryan, you might keep it. If you don't, you'll lose it anyway. And he'll walk. I need to see the complaint. I'll send it. But Claire, read it carefully. Look at the language. Failure to respond to emergent pages. Abandonment of scheduled pediatric case. He's framing you as incompetent, not coerced, not conflicted, incompetent. I forwarded the PDF. 2 minutes later, her reply, he attached my pager logs. The ones you showed me. How did he get those? I typed back, he's got access. Or someone in him is feeding him. Probably Marjorie. Don't trust HR. I drove to St. Mary's, parked in the admin lot, and took the elevator to the executive floor. Evelyn, Marcia's assistant, tried to block me. I flashed my badge and walked straight in. Marsh was on the phone. She held up a finger, finishing her call. Then she hung up and faced me, stone-faced. You caused quite a stir. Ethan, Ryan filed a complaint with the medical board against Claire. Did you know? I was informed an hour ago. By whom? By Ryan. He wanted to ensure the hospital was aligned with his concerns. Aligned. I laughed. You mean he wanted you to back his play before Claire could tell her side? I mean he's following protocol. As is Claire. As are you. Protocol doesn't include retaliation, or intimidation, or filing false reports. The board will determine that. Our role is to cooperate with their investigation. Cooperate how? By suspending Claire and leaving Ryan untouched? Dr. Bennett's privileges have been temporarily restricted pending review. That's standard. Restricted, not suspended, not investigated. Just restricted. Meanwhile, Claire's on leave. Her license is under threat. And Ryan's out there lawyering up and intimidating witnesses. Marsh leaned forward. Ethan, you're too close to this. Step back. I'm the only one not compromised. You're worried about donations. HR's worried about lawsuits. Ryan's worried about prison. And Claire's worried about her ego. I'm worried about my daughter, who had to have heart surgery while her mother was MIA because her ex-husband needed a shield. Language like that won't help Claire in front of the board. Neither will silence, which is what you're demanding. But I'm done being quiet. I'm meeting with Alan Pierce this afternoon. And if Claire won't tell the truth, I will. Marcia's eyes narrowed. You'll perjure yourself? I'll testify to facts, logs, schedules, witness statements, including parishes, including yours. If I have to, you're making a mistake. The mistake was trusting you to do the right thing. Clearly, that was asking too much. I walked out. In the hallway, I ran into Ryan. He was smiling. Cole, heard you're playing White Knight. Cute. Filed a complaint. Ryan? Or did you have your lawyer do it? Same difference. Claire's finished. You should cut your losses. My losses? What about yours? Falsifying records at Mercy? Tampering with transplant lists? Coercing a colleague into perjury? His smile faded. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough to sink you. And I know someone at Mercy who remembers you. Dr. Susan Vargas. Ring a bell? She's been waiting 3 years for someone to ask the right questions. Ryan stepped closer. Vargas is discredited. Bipolar. Fired for substance abuse. Convenient diagnosis. Right after she reported you for altering post-op narcotic counts. Almost like someone leaned on psych to rewrite her chart. You can't prove that. I don't have to. The board will investigate. And when they do, They'll find the same pattern here. Overrides, missing audits, falsified consent forms. Starting with the Williams case last month, Ryan's jaw tightened. Williams was a complex case. Claire signed off on it. Claire signed what you put in front of her, under duress. And I've got the emails to prove it. Sign this or I'll report you for Mercy. Sound familiar? He didn't answer, just stared. Here's the deal, I said quietly. Withdraw the complaint against Claire. Today. Or I hand everything I have on Mercy to the board, the Tribune, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I'll start with the fact that you've been using St. Mary's VIP wing to hide adverse events from the quality reports. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your inbox. I CC'd your lawyer on the Mercy summary. He'll love it. I walked away, resisting the urge to look back. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. That mattered. At home, I found Claire on the porch, a legal pad in her lap. She looked up as I approached. Alan Pierce called. He'll represent me. But, he says, Ryan's complaint is strong. The pager logs make me look negligent. They make you look like you were somewhere else, which you were, with him. I told Alan about the coercion, about Mercy. He said, I need hard evidence. Emails, records, something beyond my word against Ryan's. Then we get it. How? Ryan's wiped the servers. I checked. We don't need Ryan's servers. We need Mercy's backups. The ones Ryan thought he deleted. I knelt beside her. You said something the other night about a note. Check the Mercy backup drives. Whose are? She hesitated. Rachel and Gwen. She was Ryan's admin at Mercy. Before he left, she helped me cover the first case. She knew what he was doing, and she hated him for it. Where is she now? I don't know. She quit 6 months after I transferred here. Disappeared, but she gave me that note right before she left. Said if anything ever happened to her, or to me, to check the drives. Do you remember where? Basement, archive room, section Q. But Ethan, those drives are encrypted. Ryan changed the protocols after the audit. Then we decrypt them, or we find Rachel. Either way, we get the proof. Claire shook her head. It's too dangerous. Ryan will know. He'll destroy the drives before we get there. Then we don't go through the front door. I know someone in him at Mercy. David Cho. We did a joint compliance audit 2 years ago. He owes me a favor. I called David. He answered on the third ring. Ethan Cole. This is a surprise. David, I need a look at the Mercy archive drives. Section Q. Backup files from 2019 to 2021. Specifically, anything tied to Ryan Bennett or Rachel and Gwen. Silence. Then, those drives were decommissioned last year. Supposedly wiped. Supposedly. But I'm betting they're still in cold storage. And I'm betting Rachel and Gwen made sure they weren't really wiped. Another pause. If I do this, I need plausible deniability. You'll have it. I'll send you a secure link. You upload the files. No names. No paper trail. Give me an hour. I hung up. Claire was staring at me. You'd really do this? Risk your career for me? I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Lila, and for the version of you that existed before Ryan broke her. An hour later, my secure inbox pinged. A single encrypted folder. MQ_archives.zip. I downloaded it. Ran the decryption script I'd written years ago for a data breach audit. It churned. Then, files. Hundreds of them. I searched. Bennett. Ryan. Results flooded the screen. Or schedules. Narcotic logs. Transplant committee minutes. And emails. Dozens of emails between Ryan and Rachel. One dated March 14th. 2020. Caught my eye. Ryan. Adjust the post-op notes on the Henderson case. Make it look like standard complications. Don't initial. Rachel. Already done. But this is the third time this month. If audit catches this, we're both screwed. Ryan. Audit won't catch it if you keep your mouth shut. And if you don't, I'll make sure you're the one they blame. Understand? I kept scrolling. More. A pattern. Adverse events buried. Records altered. Staff intimidated. And Claire's name. Repeatedly. Claire signed off. Claire consulted. Claire approved, but the timestamps didn't match her actual shifts. Ryan had backdated entries, forged her initials, used her access codes. Oh my God, Claire whispered, reading over my shoulder. He forged my initials. Not just forged, framed. He's been setting you up for years. She sank back. I knew he was controlling. I didn't know he was building a case against me. He wasn't building a case. He was building a shield. And you were the meat. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Crisp and cold, Mr. Cole. If you release those files, your wife won't just lose her license. She'll lose everything else too. I stayed calm. Define everything else. Her freedom. We have evidence of her assistance in the Williams case. Tampering with a federal transplant registry carries criminal penalties. 5 years. Minimum. Ryan's willing to offer immunity if you delete the Mercy files. Otherwise, we go to the FBI. My client prefers anonymity. But let's just say Ryan isn't the only one with powerful friends. Walk away, Mr. Cole, or watch your wife go to prison. Click. I looked at Claire. They're threatening to frame you for federal crimes. She went pale. Williams, the transplant list. Ryan said, if I didn't remove the Martinez boy, the donor organ would go to waste. He said it was a paperwork error. I didn't know. You didn't know he was trafficking influence, but he did. And now he's using it to blackmail you. I stood up. We're not deleting anything. We're taking this to Alan Pierce. And then we're taking it to the U.S. attorney. Ethan, if we do that, Ryan will destroy us. He'll say I acted independently. He'll produce witnesses, doctors he's paid off, who'll swear I was unstable, that I altered records on my own. Then we produce Rachel and David and anyone else who's seen what he's done. And if Ryan wants a war, he's got one. That night, I met Alan Pierce at his downtown office. Claire was too shaken to come. I laid out the files, the complaint, the threat call. Pierce listened, took notes, then leaned back. This is bigger than a medical board complaint. This is RICO territory. Conspiracy, fraud, obstruction. If even half of this is true, Ryan Bennett's going to prison. Can you protect Claire? If she cooperates fully, and if we move fast, before Ryan can sanitize Mercy's archives, assuming they're not already sanitized. But Ethan, once we go to the feds, there's no going back. Claire's career in Illinois is probably over. She'll likely lose her license, even with immunity, but she stays out of jail. Better jail than dead inside. I said. Pierce nodded. I'll draft a proffer letter. Claire meets with the assistant U.S. attorney next week. But Ethan, she has to be ready to name names, including everyone at St. Mary's who enabled this, including Marsh. She's ready. Elite. I drove home, my mind racing. At a red light, I checked my phone. A news alert. St. Mary's pediatric surgeon suspended amid ethics investigation. The article didn't name Claire, but the details were clear. Lila's surgery, the schedule change, the internal review. I looked at the photo accompanying the piece. Claire leaving the hospital, head down, coat collar up. My wife, my betrayer, my responsibility. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. You have 24 hours to delete the Mercy files. After that, the FBI gets a tip about Dr. Bennett Cole's role in the Williams case. Tick-tock. I didn't reply. I just saved the message, added it to the folder, and drove on. Somewhere, Ryan was watching. Somewhere, his lawyer was drafting indictments. And somewhere, I was done waiting. I called Alan Pierce, set the meeting. Claire's in, and tell the AUSA to bring handcuffs. Because I'm not just giving them Claire's testimony. I'm giving them Ryan's head. I hung up, turned onto our street, and saw the silhouette in the living room window. Claire, waiting. Let her wait. Tomorrow, the truth came out, and God help anyone who stood in its way. The text came at 7:03 a.m. My office. 8 o'clock, come alone. We settle this, or the FBI gets the Williams package by noon. I didn't reply. I got out of bed, showered, and dressed while Claire slept on the couch. I wrote a note, gone to work. Alan has instructions if I don't call by 10 and left it on the kitchen counter. I grabbed the encrypted drive with the Mercy files and my recorder, then drove to St. Mary's. Ryan's office was on the top floor, corner suite, view of the loop. I knocked once and walked in. He was behind his desk. Soup perfect, coffee steaming. No, dear. The casual power move. Seat, he said. I stayed standing. Make it quick. I have a call with Alan Pierce at 9. Delete the Mercy files. All of them. Every copy. I withdraw the board complaint by 10. Claire keeps her license quietly, administratively. No admission of fault. She resigned from St. Mary's. Takes a research post upstate. And we all move on. That's not a trade. That's a surrender. And Claire doesn't do research. She does if she wants to keep her pension. And her freedom. The Williams case, the Martinez boy, that's federal. Ethan, human organ trafficking adjacent. Claire's signature is on the override. My lawyer can make that stick as her sole decision. You think a jury won't buy a stressed-out surgeon cutting corners? Especially one with a history of emotional instability. Courtesy of her ex-husband's testimony. You'd perjure yourself. I'd tell the truth as I remember it. Memories are flexible under stress. Ask any expert witness. I set the recorder on his desk. Red light blinking. Then, let's get your memory on record. Say that again. Slowly. Ryan's eyes flicked to the device. He smiled thinly. Clever, but pointless. That's not admissible without a warrant. And you're not law enforcement. No, but Alan Pierce is Claire's counsel. Anything you say to me about her case is discoverable once we enter proffer discussions with the U.S. Attorney. So talk. I'll let my lawyer decide what's admissible. He leaned back, studying me. You've been busy. You made me busy. Now, let's recap your offer. You want me to destroy evidence of your multi-year fraud scheme in exchange for dropping a retaliatory complaint you filed to cover your own ass. That obstruction of justice. Ryan, and conspiracy. Both felonies. Call it what you want. The reality is, Claire's finished either way. With the files. She's charged. Without them, she's unemployed but free. Which would you rather explain to Lila? I stepped closer. I'd rather explain that her mother grew a spine and helped put a corrupt doctor in prison. But you wouldn't understand that. Because you've never put anyone ahead of yourself. Not Claire. Not your patients. Not even the mayor's nephew you nearly killed with that trauma case last week. His jaw tightened. The mayor's office is satisfied. The mayor's office doesn't know you falsified the CT scan timestamp to hide the fact that you waited 40 minutes to operate because you were finishing a tea time at Medina. But I know. And the radiologist who read the original scan, he's willing to talk. Ryan's fingers tapped the desk. Once. Twice. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your inbox. I CC'd Dr. Hassan on the timeline. He's not thrilled about being implicated in a delay of care allegation, especially since his malpractice carrier just sent him a notice of reservation of rights. He pulled out his phone, scrolled. His expression didn't change, but his thumb paused. You're playing with fire. No, I'm dousing the flames you started. Here's my counter. You draft a signed affidavit admitting you coerced Claire into altering records at Mercy and St. Mary's. You admit you pulled her off Lila's surgery for your own political protection. You admit you filed the board complaint as retaliation. You submit that affidavit to the medical board, the hospital CO, and the U.S. Attorney's Office by noon. In exchange, I don't leak the Mercy files to the Tribune or the FBI yet, but I keep the originals as insurance. And if I refuse, then I walk out of here, upload everything to a secure government Dropbox, and call the Chicago Tribune's tip line from the elevator. By the time you finish your lunch, your face is on the evening news as the most corrupt ED chair in Illinois history. And Claire? She takes a plea. Cooperation. Immunity. You take the fall alone. He stood up. You think you're the first person to try to blackmail me? I'm the first person with nothing left to lose. You took my wife. You endangered my daughter. You corrupted a hospital I helped build. I'm not blackmailing you. Ryan, I'm ending you. He circled the desk. You're a mid-level administrator. Ethan, I'm a department chair with a 9-figure fundraising portfolio. Who do you think the board believes? Who do you think the feds go after when a surgeon with a spotless record accuses her vindictive husband of fabrication? They go after the guy whose electronic signature is on every altered record, whose admin vanished after threatening to go to the FBI, whose own cousin, yeah, I found that too. Rachel Nguyen is your cousin. Ryan helped him cook the books. You think that's a coincidence? Nepotism, fraud, racketeering. The RICO statute was basically written for guys like you. He stopped. You went deeper than I thought. I went deep enough to know you're not untouchable. So here's how this ends. You write the affidavit. You withdraw the complaint. You tell Marsh and the CEO that you're taking an immediate, indefinite leave for personal health reasons. And you never contact Claire again. Not directly. Not through lawyers. Not through threats. Violate any of that. And the drive I left with Alan Pierce auto-uploads to every regulatory agency in the Midwest. Ryan's smile was gone. You're making a mistake. The mistake was letting you breathe the same air as my family for 1 second longer than necessary. Right, the affidavit. He stared at me for a long 10 seconds. Then he sat down, opened his laptop, and started typing. I didn't move, didn't speak, just watched the cursor blink. 5 minutes later, he turned the screen. I read it. Short, clinical, admission of coercion, schedule manipulation, and retaliatory filing. No mention of mercy, yet, but it was a start. Print it, I said. He did. Signed it, dated it, slid it across the desk. I picked it up, folded it, and put it in my pocket. Now the email to the board. Draft it. CC Marsh and the CEO. I want it sent before I leave this room. He drafted. I read over his shoulder. Change professional differences to coercive scheduling practices. Be specific. And add, I acknowledge Dr. Bennett Cole's departure from the pediatric cardiac team was due to my unilateral reassignment, not clinical deficiency. He typed, hit send. The whoosh of the outgoing message sounded loud in the quiet room. Done, he said. Almost. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo. Say this. I, Dr. Ryan Bennett, acknowledge that I coerced Dr. Claire Bennett Cole into altering medical records at St. Mary's Medical Center and Mercy Hospital between 2019 and 2023. I further acknowledge that my complaint to the Illinois Medical Board was filed in retaliation for her refusal to continue such alterations. He hesitated. I tapped the stop button. Say it. Or I hit send on the Hassan email right now. He leaned into the mic, voice flat. Stripped of charm, I, Dr. Ryan Bennett, acknowledge that I coerced Dr. Claire Bennett Cole into altering medical records at St. Mary's Medical Center and Mercy Hospital between 2019 and 2023. I further acknowledge that my complaint to the Illinois Medical Board was filed in retaliation for her refusal to continue such alterations. I saved the file. Last thing, resignation letter. Effective immediately. Reason, personal conduct. No severance. No references. Print. Sign. Hand it to Marsh by noon. You're pushing your luck. No, I'm cleaning up your mess. Do it, Ryan. Or I start with the Tribune. He printed. Signed. Folded it. Handed it over. I tucked it into my jacket. One more thing. The VIP wing. ICU for. Who really owns those beds? He didn't answer. Thought so. Alderman Rodriguez's uncle? The one who recovered from a stroke in 3 days last year? The one whose chart shows no imaging after admission? Yeah, I'll be looking into that next. So, if I were you, I'd spend less time planning your comeback and more time lawyering up for federal court. I turned to leave. He called after me. Voice low. You win this round. Cole. But Claire? She's still complicit. The feds won't let her walk entirely. And when they're done with her, she'll hate you for making her choose. I look back. She already chose. She chose Lila. She chose the truth. And if she goes down standing. That's more than I can say for you. I walked out, recorder in one pocket, affidavit in the other. In the elevator, I forwarded the voice memo to Alan Pierce. Texted him. Affidavit signed. Resignation drafted. Board complaint withdrawn. Prep Claire for proffer. He replied, received. U.S. Attorney wants in tomorrow. 9 a.m. Main Justice. Dirksen Building. Bring everything. I called Claire from the car. She picked up on the first ring. Ethan? It's done. Ryan signed the affidavit. Withdrew the complaint. He's resigning. You're meeting the AUSA tomorrow morning. Alan will prep you tonight. Silence. Then, shaky, you got him to admit it? On paper, on record, and in a voice memo that'll hold up in court. You're not free yet, Claire, but you're not alone. Either. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything. Save it for Lila, and for the truth. Tomorrow, you tell it. All of it. No omissions. No protection for Ryan. No protection for Marsh. No protection for anyone who enabled this. I will. I promise. I hung up and drove to the Dirksen Federal Building. I didn't go in. I just sat across the street, watching the agents come and go, and let myself breathe for the first time in weeks. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice, the same one from before, Mr. Cole. Ryan Bennett's resignation won't stop the Williams investigation. But if you deliver the Mercy files to us by 5 p.m., we'll ensure Dr. Bennett Cole receives full immunity. Refuse, and the FBI raids your home tonight. Your choice. I stayed calm. Who is U.S.? Friends of the hospital and of the family. You know who we mean. Tell your boss, whoever he is, that the files aren't for sale. They're for the grand jury. And if anyone sets foot near my house, I'll make sure every reporter in Chicago knows exactly which alderman's uncle was treated in ICU for under a fake name. Understood? Click. I lowered the phone. Across the street, a dark SUV idled near the entrance. I didn't recognize the plates. Didn't matter. They'd be watching now. Let them. I drove home. Claire was waiting at the door. I handed her the affidavit. She read it, hands trembling, then looked up at me. He really admitted it. He really did. Tomorrow, you do too. And Claire? No more call rooms. No more secrets. No more Ryan. She nodded, tears spilling over. I'm scared. I know, but you're not doing it alone. I pulled her into a hug. Stiff at first, then real, for the first time in months. It didn't feel like holding a stranger. Upstairs, Lila slept, her stuffed giraffe tucked under her arm. I kissed her forehead. Claire stood in the doorway, watching. I'll fix this. She whispered. You don't fix it. I said, you own it, and then you move forward. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Tomorrow. I agreed, but as I lay in bed that night, I knew tomorrow was just the beginning. Ryan would fight. His friends would fight dirtier. And the truth, the whole, ugly truth, was still only half told. Still, for the first time, it was ours, not Ryan's, not the hospital's, ours. And that was enough to sleep. For now, the sentencing hearing was set for 10 a.m. on a Friday. I arrived early, suit pressed, hair combed, stomach empty. Russ met me outside the courtroom. Last chance to back out of the impact statement. He said, I'm not backing out. Petrakis will try to paint you as vindictive. The judge might cut Claire a break if he thinks you're settling scores. I'm not settling scores. I'm stating facts. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Ethan sat next to his new lawyer, shackled at the wrists, looking thinner, older. Claire was already at the defense table, wearing a charcoal dress and minimal makeup. She didn't look at me. Judge Ramirez called the case. United States versus Hale. Et al. The AUSA. A woman named Lindsay Cho this time. Stood. Your Honor. The government submits that the defendants engaged in a sophisticated scheme to defraud investors and misappropriate marital and trust assets totaling $4.2 million. Mr. Hale served as the architect, using his barred status to operate through shell entities. Ms. Bennett abused her position at Chase to facilitate the transfers, alter records, and obstruct justice. We recommend 87 months for Mr. Hale and 72 months for Ms. Bennett, followed by supervised release and full restitution. Petrakis rose. Your Honor, Ms. Bennett's role was ancillary. She acted under the undue influence of a manipulative ex-husband. She believed the funds would be repaid. There is no evidence she benefited personally. We asked for a downward variance to 36 months, followed by home confinement. Ethan's lawyer mumbled something about minimal criminal history and acceptance of responsibility. It rang hollow. Then Judge Ramirez looked at me. Mr. Carter, you indicated you wished to address the court. I stood. My voice didn't shake. Your Honor, I've spent the last decade assessing risk for a living. I quantify probabilities, model outcomes, advise clients on how to protect their assets. I did not protect mine. I trusted my wife. I trusted her when she said the transfers were temporary. I trusted her when she said Ethan was being framed. I was wrong. The $4.2 million taken from our accounts and from Chase clients wasn't a loan. It wasn't an investment. It was theft. And it was enabled by my wife's deliberate actions. Actions she took while fully aware they were illegal. She altered bank records after I filed a SAR. She attempted to manufacture evidence to implicate me. She allowed a convicted felon to use our marriage as a shield for his fraud. I am not here for revenge. I am here because the record must reflect the truth. I was a victim of this scheme, not a participant. And I urge the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of that scheme, the breach of fiduciary duty by a bank officer, and the need to deter others in positions of trust from similar conduct. I sat down. Russ gave me a small nod. Petrakis leaned toward Claire and whispered. Claire's jaw tightened. Judge Ramirez took 10 minutes to deliberate from the bench. Mr. Hale, you have a prior felony conviction for securities fraud. You were prohibited from working in the industry, yet you orchestrated this scheme from the shadows. Your disregard for the law is long-standing. 72 months. Ethan didn't react. Ms. Bennett, you held a position of significant trust at a major financial institution. You exploited that trust to facilitate fraud, obstructed justice by altering records, and attempted to shift blame to your husband. The court finds no credible evidence of coercion. 60 months. 60 months. 5 years. Less than I expected. More than she hoped. Claire turned to me then. Finally, her eyes were wet, but her voice, when she spoke, was steady. You'll rot alone. Dan. I didn't respond. I just gathered my coat and walked out. The hallway was a blur of cameras and shouted questions. Mr. Carter, how do you feel? Will you divorce her? Any comment on the sentence? I kept walking until I reached the elevator. Agent Tran was waiting. You handled that well, she said. I didn't do it for the cameras. I know. We recovered about 40% of the assets so far. The rest is gone. Offshore accounts. Crypto. Cash withdrawals. Restitution will be slow. I didn't expect to see it again. Still, you did the right thing. I rode the elevator down in silence. Outside, the sun was bright. I walked to the subway, bought a paper, and read the headline, Banker's Wife. Ex-husband sentenced in $4 million fraud scheme. My name was in the third paragraph. Victim, not villain. For now. 2 weeks later, I resigned from Morgan Stanley. My boss tried to talk me out of it. You're cleared. Daniel, your judgment was sound. But I couldn't sit at that desk anymore, staring at screens that reminded me of the alerts I'd missed, the warnings I'd ignored. I moved to New Jersey, rented a small apartment, and took a job teaching introductory finance at a community college. The pay was a fraction of what I'd earned, but the silence was worth it. I changed my number, deleted social media, told my family I needed space. Life became routine. Teach, grade, eat, sleep, repeat. 18 months passed. Then, one Tuesday, I found an envelope in my faculty mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name, typed inside, a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was familiar, looping, precise. Do you ever wonder if we could have fixed it? I read it once, twice. Then I walked the parking lot, lit a match, and burned it. The paper curled black, the words disappearing into ash. I watched until there was nothing left. I got into my car and drove home. That night, I slept through without dreaming. The next morning, I taught my class. We covered the time value of money. A student asked why anyone would commit fraud when the math always catches up. I told him the truth. Because people don't think they'll get caught. And because emotions, loyalty, resentment, love, they skew the numbers. But the numbers don't care. They're impartial. They always balance. After class, I erased the board, gathered my notes, and turned off the lights. As I locked the door, I thought about Claire, somewhere upstate, wearing orange, counting days. I thought about Ethan, probably still scheming. And I thought about the letter. Could we have fixed it? Maybe, if she'd told the truth, if she'd chosen us over him, if I'd seen the signs sooner. But maybe is a number. It's a variable. And in the end, the equation only works with facts. I walked out into the cold morning air, my breath foggy in front of me. The campus was quiet. The road ahead was clear. And for the first time in 2 years, I didn't look back.